What are Texas medical directors responsible for in the state of Texas when it comes to overseeing their clinics? So what this looks like is that a medical director who's an MD or a DO can be your medical director. Nurse practitioners do not have full practice authority in the state of Texas. So if you have a medical director, it has to be an MD, a DO, and dentists do not count. Most providers, when opening a clinic, think that all they need is a medical director's signature, and that is definitely not the case. Legally, a medical director cannot just give you their signature and then, let you have free range. There are things that have to be followed with that. One of the things that need to happen with oversight is the medical director and the mid-level need to be meeting monthly. These are called your M&M, your monthly mid-level meetings, and they need to be documented on paper that these things are happening. You want to make sure that you're going over all the things in the clinic, whether you've added new services, new staff, those types of things. You want to make sure that your medical director is reviewing your charts. A good rule of thumb is 10%. I often get asked of, where are you finding that 10%? I don't see it in the Texas law. That is a rule of thumb that physicians learned in medical school. So that is where that 10% rule comes from. I recommend working with your medical director so that you can make sure that your chart review process is consistent, and then that way nothing's getting missed. The one thing that I will say is that there are certain things that need to happen inside of the charting. So, brush up on those Texas laws to make sure you understand what to put in there specifically, or you can work with us and our team will help walk you through that process and what that looks like. Another thing that they need to be overseeing are your protocols. So we just had a big change in the state of Texas, January 9th of 2025. And they made it very black and white instead of gray as it was before, that those protocols have to be in place. They have to be approved by your medical director and they have to be signed off on yearly. So you want to make sure those things are happening within your clinic. It is important that, again, with talking about protocols, that you have protocols in place for every service that you offer in clinic. And then it doesn't just pertain to services, protocols also pertain to, something that could be like running a Pronox machine and what the protocol looks like for that, or starting an IV. So a lot that falls under that umbrella that you need to make sure are covered in your protocols. When I work with clinics, they don't typically have these meetings that they're supposed to have. And so what happens is this oversight that the physician is supposed to have, those boxes don't get checked by having those monthly meetings. And so what can happen is that an inspector comes in, says, hey, where's your log for your monthly meetings? We need to see those. Those monthly meeting logs are required because when the state comes in to do an investigation, they want to make sure that your medical director isn't just giving you their signature. They're also hands-on in these things and meeting with you monthly so that they know what's going on within the clinic. They know services that are being offered. They know who is working. They know that all the boxes when it comes to compliance are being checked. In all, you want to make sure that your medical director, because as you know, as a provider, we have to keep the medical director in line. If you want a medical director and you want to make sure your clinic stays open, it is your due diligence to make sure that your medical director is signing off on the things that you need them to sign off on. Overall, it is their responsibility. But again, as providers, you know that sometimes that responsibility and that nudge that medical director needs happens, with you. It starts with you. So you want to definitely make sure that your medical director is making sure those things happen. And not only that they see the importance in those things, because then you're confident that you have a medical director that understands their responsibilities to also make sure that you're safe, your patients are safe, and that type of thing. So in order to have your protocols in place, you can definitely write your own as a provider. You definitely want to make sure that you're following the legal structure and writing those things, making sure that you're putting all the information in there that needs to go in there. But you have to write one for each service. Again, it's a lot, it's overwhelming. It is something you can work with an attorney on. However, we also provide this service. And the way that we set apart from working with a legal team is that we specialize in aesthetics and we make sure that all the things are really highlighted in the protocol. So basically you're getting a little more information that you need, but it doesn't hurt to have more information than not enough. You can definitely work with an attorney on this. It probably will take a little bit longer. They're gonna have to research and understand aesthetics, because a lot of attorneys are overall medical attorneys, so they don't quite understand the lane of aesthetics, and that's where we specialize. That's where our team comes in, and we make sure that those protocols are specific And we already have a very large database, so chances are we already have all those protocols that you need in place. Our protocols are backed by an attorney, so whichever you prefer, we highly recommend getting one of those done. Now that we've discussed all of that, I definitely want to make sure that we talk about responsibilities in a different kind of way. So we as providers know that you often get handed, those jobs that are somebody else's, and it's because that medical director has a primary job, which is not overseeing your clinic. So you want to make sure that you're pushing them to do those things, check off those boxes. If you want to have a clinic that is compliant and you want to, continue to stay open, it's important that you make sure these things are being done. This is something we can definitely help you with. We already have these processes in place. So if you want to work with our team, definitely book a consult and the link in our bio, and we can tell you how we can work with you in getting this process set up for your clinic.